Welcome everybody to day 4 of a Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action. Woo! Everybody give it up. Give it up. I'm going to make a brief announcement about interpretation services. Today, we have interpretation services available in both Spanish and Korean. If you look down at the bottom of your screen, a globe will pop up where you will be able to select the language that you would like to have interpretation in. I will turn it over to the Spanish interpreter.
Hola, hola, hola y buenas noches. Bienvenidos por estar en esta junta el día de hoy. Esta junta será transmitida en español. Para poder acceder a la junta en español, por favor, vea que dentro de poco pueden ver un globo terráqueo, un globo en forma de mundo en la parte baja de la pantalla de este video. Por favor, de esa manera seleccione, clique y seleccione el idioma español para poder escuchar esta presentación en español. Muchas gracias.
All right, you all are in for an amazing night tonight. I think night 4 is going to be one of the best. I want to introduce our moderators for tonight. We have Janet Wheeler, who is a Milwaukee Public Schools district mentor teacher, and Jane Audet, who is chair of the MICAH Education Task Force.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Black Lives Matter at School Intergenerational panel. Toward a spirit of truth and reconciliation, we acknowledge that Milwaukee Public Schools has been on land whose indigenous caretakers are the Menominee, Potawatomi, and Ho-Chunk people. Before I begin, I'm asking for permission to speak from our elders. All right. As Angela mentioned, I am Janet Wheeler, and I am a co-facilitator along with Jane Audet. And we are so delighted to be with you, and we are so delighted that you have joined us this evening. We promise a fantastic event that involves collaboration as well as much discussion. And so let me stop for just a moment and allow my facilitator and co-chair of this committee to also introduce herself.
I'm Jane Audet, a proud MPS school social worker and the very proud chair of the MICAH Education Task Force. And I am delighted to be hand in hand with Janet this evening. We've worked to try to plan something that will allow the community to come together and hear many voices when we welcome everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Both Jane and myself will be facilitating the agenda this evening. But before we begin, we'd like to thank MPS, MTEA, MICAH, our panelists, our support partners that are here with us this evening that made this event become a reality. And we are hopeful that it will also be a success. We hope you enjoy what we have planned for you this evening. And we are hopeful that our conversation with others will help spark another conversation that we would like to put forth, not only in our community, but in our world, to make what is uncomfortable become comfortable. This evening, we are lucky to have some awesome people working with us to support this work. Pancho, will you kind of give a wave out there? He will be assisting us with the Community Jam Board. And in just a few minutes, he will explain how the Community Jam Board works. I also want to introduce Amanda, Gretchen, and Natalie, who will be running the Q&A section to be sure they are going to be addressing your questions. Our questions will be answered 3 ways. Some questions will be answered live. Some questions will be posted and answered through the Community Jam Board. and then some questions will be answered privately. Before I continue, I'm going to give Pancho a few minutes to discuss how the Community Jam Board works.
Good evening, beautiful people. As Janet said, I will be supporting today with the Community Jam Board. So Jamboard is an app that is used in some of our classes. It's an interactive way to engage people and share different viewpoints. So I will be sharing my screen right now. So what you are seeing is our Jamboard. Shortly, we will put the link to this Jamboard in the chat. Once you have access to the Jamboard, there will be questions that are proposed or asked. You will see that question on the screen. You will come to the left side of the screen where there's a small post-it note that says sticky note. You will click on it. You will answer the question and you will click save. Click cancel. And then the questions should be there. Your statements will pop up. As soon as you're done answering your question, we ask that you do close this tab and come back to the Zoom to make it accessible to other people. There's a capacity of 50 people at a time. So we ask that you do answer the question and then bounce out, okay? We are here to support you. So if there's any questions, let us know. And I'll be sharing my screen as we are doing these questions. As questions continue, you will click on the next tab and you'll be able to answer the following questions. If post-it notes are available, you can select a post-it note, move it. You will be able to edit it and put in your answer. Again, if there are any questions, please let us know and we're here to support you.
Thanks, Pancho. Again, this is going to be an awesome event. Using the Community Jam Board is just another way that you can stay engaged with us throughout the conversation. Our panelists, though, will be answering questions live. So again, guests, you will be responding to the questions in our Community Jam Board. And again, you will be accessing that Community Jam Board through the link provided in the Q&A section. Please respond to each question one at a time. And so there'll be rounds. And so round one will be coming up in just a few moments. So we ask that you don't move ahead, just wait until we move to that next question. I believe Pancho already demonstrated how to use the sticky notes. So again, if there are any questions, please respond to that in the chat. So again, please feel free to share your gender pronouns with your name, and we will agree to use shared gender pronouns as well. As mentioned before, closed captioning is turned on for our session, but may be turned off if you prefer. So let's go ahead and get started. You didn't come to hear me speak. You came to hear our wonderful panelists. And wonderful as they are, they're ready to introduce themselves. And so I'm going to start with Reverend Marilyn Miller, and then we'll move forward. Each panelist, we will give you about a minute to briefly introduce yourself to not only just us, the community, but those that are our guests as well. And then I'll move on to the next person. So let's go ahead and start with Reverend Marilyn Miller.
All right, Ms. Janet, you still want us to answer the first question as well?
Not yet. First, we'll just introduce ourselves.
All
and
right,
we'll give you about a minute to do that.
All right, great. Good evening, everybody. I am the Reverend Marilyn Miller, a lifelong Milwaukeean. I am a product of Milwaukee Public School, 9th Street Elementary, Roosevelt Middle School, Parkman Junior High School, and Riverside, Eastside. And very excited about being here tonight. I'm recently retired pastor and just launched an LLC with a friend of mine called Leading for Racial Equity. So good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Thank you. Let's go with Reverend Walter Lanier. Good evening.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Walter Lanier. Wear a couple hats. I'm the pastor of the Progressive Baptist Church of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Been there almost 10 years. I co-labor with Pastor Marilyn and also Jane Audet in MICAH, Milwaukee Inner City Congregations Allied for Hope. I lead the Religious Leaders Caucus. I also work at MATC. I've been down there for 12 years now as a director of student resources and counseling services, and also work with Milwaukee Health Services, Inc. with Dr. Izzard and his team there, and a couple of other things. I am a former college dropout. I just wanted to let you know that. Before I had a bunch of great titles, I had some struggles. So I went down before I came up. I'm happy to be here.
And we're happy to have you. Thank you. Our next panelist is Dr. Marcus Arrington. I think to some of you, he may sound familiar.
Good evening, Janet and everyone else, our panelists and all of our guests. I'm a proud MPS graduate, Washington High School, class of 97, but also a former MPS teacher and administrator. I'm pleased to be here. Currently, I serve as the senior pastor at Park Lawn Assembly of God. This is my rookie year there, but I'm pleased to still be of service to the community and glad to be a part of this discussion. Thank you for having me.
Again, welcome. Another name that you will know so well, Representative Lakeisha Myers.
Good evening, everyone. I'm State Representative Lakeisha Myers. I represent the 12th Assembly District in Milwaukee and a small portion of Wauwatosa. I'm also a Milwaukee Public School teacher at JMAC, so the Knights are in the house. I'm also an MPS grad. I graduated from the flagship school of Milwaukee Public Schools, the gold standard itself, none other than the generals of the Rufus King High School class of 2002. So I'm very happy to be here with you all this evening.
We are very happy to have you, and it's awesome to hear about those of you that are former graduates of MPS and you still root for your school. I think that is amazing. Our next panelist, Kamora, I don't have a last name, but Kamora, are you here with us? I see you, Kamora Caldwell.
Okay, I'm definitely here. I'm sorry, I'm in a really noisy house, but I'm listening very close. I'm Kamora Caldwell, that's my last name. I'm a student at North Division High School and a participant in YRU, Youth Rising is a student organization at our school.
Awesome, we're awesome to have you. Tatiana Washington, will you please introduce yourself?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Tatiana Washington. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm also a general, graduated from Rufus King in 2019. And I am a policy associate with March for Our Lives. So pre-COVID, I was on the Hill lobbying. March for Our Lives is one of the largest gun violence prevention organizations in the country. And I also run an organization called 50 Miles More, which is a Black youth-led organization that focuses on Black feminism. So I'm really excited to be here.
Happy to have you. Andre Ellis.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? How's everybody doing this evening?
Good.
Good. Andre Lee Ellis, founder and director of We Got This Incorporated, a little old garden over there on the corner of 9th and Ring Street in the 53206 zip code, working very hard and diligently to change the mindset, change the health consciousness, and change the ways of the people that it serves. We grow food that's free to the public to come and get. We believe that if people feed their bodies better, they can feel better in their bodies. And so I'm happy to be here tonight and hope that I can lend something good and positive and strong to the conversation. Bayview High School, 1977. Red Cats go.
All right now, I hear some rivalry. I like it. Do we have Stella on the line with us today? Stella Nathan, I see you.
Yes, hello. Good evening, everybody. I am a graduate of Milwaukee High School of the Arts, class of 2009. Currently, I work in Milwaukee Public Schools at High School of the Arts and also with McDowell. Previously, I worked with College Possible Milwaukee and Public Allies Milwaukee.
Nice to have you with us. And I believe we should have Lauren Cross. Is Lauren Cross with us? Okay. All right. Well, we're going to keep moving forward. Again, panelists, we thank you for being here and taking the time. There's many things you could be doing right now, but the fact that you chose to take the time to be here, we are so ever grateful. And we know you're going to make a huge impact on the conversations that we're going to have today. So round one starts. And it is a very fun question to ask our panelists. Sometimes our panelists get a little worried about what questions are going to ask me. Are we going to start off with the big 1-2 punch? So community jam board questions are going to work just like this. We're going to start with the community jam board responses. Then we'll go to the panelists, and then we'll ask the panelists to respond. But first, let's start with our first question, which is, tell us about a song or maybe a dance that was popular at a time when you were young. So tell us about a song that was popular about a time when you were young. So when I'll say for myself, I'm actually not from Milwaukee, but I've been here every year of my life because my parents used to live here. But I am actually from Michigan. But I am going to rep Michael Jackson. Can you feel it? That to me is like, I get down wherever I'm at, it's going down, and yes, I can feel it. So forgive me for having just a little bit of a moment about talking about what was popular for me. But we're going to take a few minutes to let the community go ahead and respond to that question. And panelists, you'll be thinking of what song that was popular for you. You'll each have a minute to tell us what was your popular song, and then we'll have a response. But for right now, we are just going to have just the community to just go ahead and take a Post-it note and respond. And then I think, Pancho, you're going to go ahead and address some of the songs that have been written on Post-it notes.
Absolutely. And then just one more time, if you're looking at the screen, you can click on this Post-it note that's right here on the left side to write your answer, or you could repurpose one of these smiley face ones, whichever you do prefer. But so far, we got a great lineup. We have Jump by Crisscross.
Hey!
We have What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. We have Boom Boom Pow by the Black Eyed Peas. We have Right There by Chingy. That used to be my ringtone for my high school years. We have Daisy Song by Ashniko Ntabi. We have What's Poppin' by Jack Harlow.
Okay.
Keep them coming, people.
All right.
Right now, this is a good lineup for a cookout.
It sure is. All we need is the sun and not the snow. You are right about that. So while he is looking at that, let's go ahead and start with our panelists. I'll go with Reverend Marilyn Miller. Would you like to tell us a song or maybe a dance that was popular when you were young?
I saw my song up here already. So Marvin Gaye, What's Going On? It was produced in 1971. It was the first, what was called like a protest album from a rhythm and blues artist. And you guys know he sang about all the stuff that we're dealing with today as well. So you could take those songs and drop them right here 50 years later, and we still talking about the same things. I'll pass it on from there.
All right, you are exactly right. Reverend Walter Lanier.
All right. My song, it said we could read it or sing it. So mine is living just enough, enough for the city. And that's all I'm going to do because I really don't sing at all. I'm inspired by the youth. So I'll stretch outside my comfort zone for youth, but otherwise you would never have heard that. But Living for the City by Stevie Wonder. It's a great song. It's a mix. It's a song about a family. It's talk about a boy, a father, a sister, a mother. And so the family is there and they're tight, but they also have a lot of challenges. And so Stevie Wonder is phenomenal. And I love that song because it's talking about the family. It's talking about their personal challenges and how they're striving to make a difference. It also touches on the reality of the challenges of society. And as Pastor Marilyn said, it could be applied today as well. So a boy is born in Hard Time, Mississippi, surrounded by four walls that ain't pretty. His parents gave him love and affection to keep him moving and strong and moving in the right direction, living just enough for the city.
Wow, I don't know about you, but I was having a moment right there. I could hear it, and you sounded awesome. Maybe we need to have some record people out here because you sounded good. And
only for one verse.
Well, that one verse was it. That was it. Andre Ellis, what would you like to share?
Oh wow, I'm gonna go with a dance. I like gathering around the TV every weekend for watch Soul Train, but my favorite part was the Soul Train line. and trying to identify the dancers that were always on there and thinking that I was a step ahead of everybody else with the dance because I would try to learn the current dance that they were doing on Soul Train or on the Soul Train line. And I thought it was a great start to my inspiration for wanting to go into theater and see that happening. But the Soul Train line is where I'd carry with me. I love a good Soul Train line.
I hear you. And it's funny how Soul Train lines continue to this day. And everybody knows what a Soul Train line throughout all cultures. So yes. Yeah. Representative Myers.
So okay, I guess the song that I could think of off the top of my head, we like to dance during my day. So we had It's Time for the Percolator. It's Time for the Percolator. So we had that going on. And I used to have some good footwork back in the day, so I was able to do it. Not so much anymore, but yeah.
It's funny, I'm from Michigan, so you played that song, everybody went on the floor. Oh my goodness, that's a workout for you. Yeah, we could talk about that song, but we're gonna keep moving to Kamora. I know you're gonna bring us a different perspective. Kamora, tell us a song or a dance.
A song or dance from now?
Yes, that's popular. Yep.
Well,
and you feeling it. You like, yeah, this is me.
Well, the one that I'm feeling like right now would be, honestly, I'm not really into the new school music. I really like kind of old stuff. So I'm into some Ashanti right now. So I don't know if I can help you. I like You Love Me. So
nice, nice. Let's move on to Naomi. Are you here, Naomi?
Yes.
All right, Naomi, go ahead and tell us a song.
My song is Bigger Than Black and White. And I picked that song because it has a lot to do with police brutality and gun violence in our community. And it was a song that will let you know that skin color doesn't matter.
I'm not sure we heard the last part of that. Could you just say that one more time for us? I apologize.
I said it also lets us know that skin color is not the only thing that matters. Or that
Nice, nice. Who sings the song Black and White?
Lil Baby.
Okay, thank you for that. Moving on to Tatiana.
Yeah, I would say, I remember when I graduated high school and like the last summer when I was with my friends before I went to college, we were definitely blasting Lizzo, especially Truth Hurts. Like that was our song of the summer. So I'm gonna go with that.
All right. All right. Stella.
So I grew up in the 90s and I could say I really was not popular, so I didn't know any of the all the good songs that were playing. The first song that came to mind was Remix to Ignition, but I choose not to recognize R. Kelly. So I'm gonna go with Destiny's Child, Say My Name. That was one that I used to sing all the time. I know that was a big popular one that I actually knew since I really did not know the songs until I revisited them as an adult, but definitely Say My Name.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I can remember saying that. And Nathan, I'm not sure if I said you before. Is Nathan here? I think Nathan may not be here. All right, if you can take a look at our panelists, those of you that are our guests, you can see we have a diverse group of panelists. So we have our mature and our young ones here. And it makes the conversation such an interesting perspective to discuss. And so you hear the new songs and you hear the old songs, but yet there's still music that just binds us to our connections and what makes us laugh. I'm going to go back to Pancho, or makes us feel good. Anything else you want to add from the Community Jam Board?
For sure. So we had a couple of some late entries, but let me share the screen really quick so we can see them. We got that. We got "Don't Stop Till You Get Enough" by Michael Jackson. "Say My Name" by Destiny's Child. We got "Cream" by the Wu-Tang Clan. "Kiss Me Through the Phone" by Soulja Boy. I think I played that one for a couple of girls in high school. And yeah, those are the ones that we have. So, all right here. Oh, sorry, that's a different answer. Oh, "Boom Boom Pow" by the Black Eyed Peas. So,
Nice.
Pancho.
Pancho.
Before we move on to the next question, so if you're following us on the Jamboard, you're going to click right up here at the top of the screen to go to slide 3, and I'll share when we're ready.
All right, thank you for that, Pancho. Panelists, we're going to give us just another minute to talk about the songs you just heard. You know, let's think about some of the songs we heard from the Black Eyed Peas. We heard some Michael Jackson, Destiny Child. What are you thinking? How are these songs have evolved? And anyone, this is anyone that, you know, can speak, because we're now speaking to one another.
Well, I guess I'll go because I was been speaking really fast, but with the songs that you guys did mention, they haven't died out or anything. The youth still listen to it nowadays, except we don't like really think it's that cool, but you know, we listen to it every now and then, and it still does connect to us, just, you know, not as much as you guys.
Anyone else?
Who did the Black and White song? Who sings that?
The Baby.
And that's the name of the song, Black and White?
I mean, that's a song I listen to.
No, that's what I wanted to know. I'm because I'm gonna check it out while we are in the midst of the panel. Bigger than Black and White. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah hooked me up. I was looking for it, so I was just intrigued. Thank you, Naomi, for sharing about that content and that title. So I want to check it out. It intrigued me, and it's good to hear how it's engaging you and your musicality, but also engaging your mind. That's good stuff. So I'm gonna look it up now.
And that's what we're hoping, that we can bind those connections. And so, you know, our young audience, you hear these music from Marvin Gaye, and that binds you to what was in the past. And in our mature audience, you can see what our young students are listening to, and that also binds those connections. I know my son, he gets a little when I play a little bit of Marvin Gaye, especially when his grandparents say, it's like, oh my goodness. But when you think about it, all music has that good beat, and it just resonates with you, and it brings forth those memories that last pretty much for a lifetime. So that pretty much ends round 1. We thank you for that. That was great. See, easy questions. Easy for me, at least. We're going to go ahead with round 2. We're going to keep up with the same format. We're going to start with the community jam board, and then we'll move on to our panelists. But our question, this is a good one. So if you could have dinner with someone from the past or present, who might it be? So the person could be still alive, or it could be no longer with us. But if you go to the community jam board, that's for our guest audience. And I think he said frame 3, you will be able to respond to that. If you could have dinner with someone, that's a really loaded question. And I'm going to go ahead and let Pancho, it looks like we have some responses right now. I'll let Pancho go ahead and read those.
Yep, so I'm back again, beautiful people. So as I said on slide 3, if you were to come in and answer the question, if you could have dinner with someone from the past or present, who would it be? Please don't rush and put my name on there. It's okay. We'll give a chance to the other people, to the little people, I guess. We have Barack Obama. We have Bernie Sanders. We have Malcolm X, and the second to Malcolm X. We have Colin Kaepernick, Maya Angelou. We have Alexis Pauline Gumbs. We have my cousin Mary. We have my friend Shamima. My grandmothers, Oprah Winfrey, Jesus, I second that. And there's a third Jesus. Shida Shakur, my Aunt Debbie. Yes, the whole Obama family. Michelle Obama. So Nelson Mandela, Tupac, John Lewis. So this is a great dinner table that we're setting up right here.
feast for sure. Okay, Pancho, I guess I should put your name down and say, yeah, I would have dinner. I'm just joking. I just want to make some people laugh out there. I guess for me, I would say because of the pandemic, I would choose my dad. And I'm going to add my mom. My mom is no longer with us, but my dad, because of the pandemic, I haven't seen him. He's 96 years young and still remembers so much. And he moved from Mississippi to Milwaukee, I'd say back in the 1940s. And he talks about Milwaukee to this day. And if it wasn't for the pandemic, he would take the Lake Express ferry and get on it on an early Saturday morning and travel here. And he just loves to see how Milwaukee has built up themselves. So that would be my person to have dinner with just another time. And so I'm graciously asking our Father, just give me that, if you will. But panelists, I was trying to buy you some time to think about who might you want to have dinner with. And so I'm going to go ahead and start again with Reverend Miller.
All right. I would love to have dinner with my family ancestors on both my mother's and my father's side. The first ones of us, so that I could look in their faces and see myself in them. We do know that on my father's side, our roots go back to Guinea-Bissau, West Africa. So I would be really excited to see where my roots go back on my maternal side.
Interesting. Reverend Lanier.
Yep, my two were picked already, either Malcolm or Mandela. I think either one would be fascinating for dinner, for a long conversation. I appreciate both their leadership amongst a host of others. And what I appreciated in particular about Nelson Mandela, when we think about our leaders, especially as Black men, for too long, all of our, or many, I should say, of our heroes were assassinated. And so I appreciated in Nelson Mandela and now also Barack Obama, some brothers who lived, natural lives, notwithstanding that he was incarcerated. So those would be my two top picks. I know I cheated, but they were on the board already. So those are my two.
No cheating here. Andre.
All right. Okay. So mine would be my dad, and for a different reason probably than the other person that said it. My dad died when my mom was 3 months pregnant with me, so I never had a chance to meet him. And so it would be interesting to have a dinner with him, because one question I always had is that he had 8 children with my mom. Why did he wait till he number 9 to pass away? But interesting enough, my mom remarried another man whose name was Arthur as well, and together they had 5 more children. So I probably should stay out of that. That is who I would love to have dinner with.
Thanks for sharing. Dr. Arrington.
So my choice is Harry Belafonte. He was a confidant of Dr. King. I'm sure everybody would like to talk to Dr. King. But I think artists and entertainers provide a unique perspective. Oftentimes they interpret the mood and the sentiment of the culture and the people through their dance, through their visual arts, or through song. And I think he's a brilliant individual, an icon. And I would love to be able to glean from him, especially as it relates to the things that we're encountering today.
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. That was a good name to say. Yeah, my mother was from the islands, and so she would always reference his name. And it's funny how we don't hear him anymore, but he had a huge impact on our civil rights movement. Let's move on to State Representative Lakeisha Myers.
Well, the person I always wanted to meet, then she passed away last year, a couple years ago, Diane Carroll. She is just the most elegant person that I had ever seen, and I grew up watching Dynasty, and I said, I'm gonna be like that when I grow up, because she was one of the best dressed people, like just flawless from head to toe. She was, always eloquent. She believed in Black power. She talked about it endlessly. She was able to break down so many doors, and just to have a meal with her would be like, oh my God.
What a name. Such a classy woman. And it's funny how I always, when I grew up, I said I wanted to dress like her. Let's move on to Kimora. Now we're going to get a different perspective.
Okay, you guys can't really see me because I'm actually on my way to a family gathering, but I will have over for dinner, they're like two different people, but Kanye West and Malcolm X, very different in generations. Well, Malcolm, because I actually love that he is a strong man and did not give up, because if he would have gave up or anything in his younger years, he would have went down with a bad reputation, but instead he decided to keep going because his mistakes do not make him. And Kanye West, he has a little other side that people are skeptical about, but I view him as somebody who is just outspoken and they just love to speak their mind and the truth that they feel is the truth. So those two people will have a very interesting perspective for me at the dinner table.
That's nice. It's nice to hear that perspective on there and how those two would actually talk with one another. Never thought of it that way. So thank you for sharing that, Kimora. Naomi.
I would want to go to dinner with Martin Luther King because I personally feel like I'm becoming more like him. Freshman year of high school, I became a public speaker. So during the summer, I participated in a lot of community outlets and speaking type stuff. And I also want to go to school to be a doctor. So I just feel like if I had the chance to get to know him a little bit better while he's alive, maybe I will get more clues, more examples, and more help.
Thank you, Naomi. We wish you luck on your future endeavors to become that doctor. I see it within you. Let's move on to Tatiana.
Yeah, I would definitely say Claudia Jones, who was a Black feminist. She was persecuted and then deported. And I've just learned so much doing research on her and doing reading. So I would just love to hear, she was an immigrant. She was from Trinidad. So I would just love to learn more about her and just sit there and hear from her, that experience of literally being persecuted. And then she created one of the largest she was a huge journalist. So I would just love to have dinner with her and speak with her.
Thank you for sharing that. Stella.
I have a couple. So the first that came to mind was Ruby Bridges. I've loved her ever since I was a kid, so I think it would just be really cool to sit down with her. I don't know what my fascination or obsession with her is, but I've just always been so fascinated by her. I think because as a kid, I really loved education, and she was doing anything to get that education. So I think that would be one of them. The other one I had was Lupita Nyong'o. I just love her as well. That's self-explanatory. And then I have Tyra Banks because I think she just is really fun. She's hilarious to me, and I think she has a lot of stories that she could tell. And I think I'll try to pick people that I wouldn't be nervous around. I feel like she'd get the conversation going. And then I just thought of this one as well. I had watched the LA 92 documentary the other night, and they had the judge on there that let off the Asian lady that killed the black girl in the convenience store. And I think I'd want to sit down with the judge and just really ask her, what is your problem? I really think I'll be able to convince her that she screwed up, because I just feel like she really just thought she didn't do anything wrong. And so I think I'd want to have a conversation with her and just kind of explain, how wrong she was and see if I could get her to change her mind. Not that anything would probably come of it, but I think that would be really interesting to just try to convince her that yes, thank you for putting the name. For some reason, I always like, I don't forget her name, but I'm like, what is it? Like, but yeah, I was just watching that last night, and whoo, y'all, if y'all haven't watched that documentary, that's one to watch. But maybe when you're in a good place for it, because I was not ready.
I'm gonna have to check that documentary out. I don't know about to any of our guests, but isn't it just inspiring to hear our young people talk about who they would have at the dinner table? I am sitting here just motivated and inspired, and I'm in awe of you all. This is just wonderful to hear your perspectives and your reasons why. So we thank you for sharing that. So please forgive me. I seem to have not acknowledged Naomi and Lauren as a way to introduce themselves. And so I'm going to start with Naomi. Would you please introduce yourself? I think it was Naomi. I didn't allow you to introduce yourself. And then Lauren, I believe you just came in. Would you introduce yourself and then also as well answer the question of who you may have to would like to eat dinner with?
My name is Naomi. I'm a sophomore at North Division. I'm a student activist, a public speaker, and a student ambassador. I'm also a part of YRU, which stands for Youth Rising Up. It's a youth-led group at North Division, and we are also in progress of getting our podcast off the ground, which is called Youthology.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you. All right, Lauren, I see you here with us. Go ahead and briefly introduce yourself and then respond to the question.
Hi, my name is Lauren Cross. I'm a co-chair of the Milwaukee Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. I've also worked closely with YRU, and I'm also a member of the People's Climate Coalition. Hello, everybody. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces. Yes. If I could sit with anyone at the dinner table, I think that it would probably be Gloria Richardson. She's not that well known, but you may be familiar of like a picture of her floats around frequently when we're talking about the civil rights movement. She's like pushing a bayonet away from her, but she has this really good quote about involving everyone in the movement. I'm going to paraphrase it, but she basically says that if you can articulate the need, meaning like if you're from the working class, if you know of like your struggles and what you need from your community and what's not given to your community, then you should be given the privilege to organize. And I think that's really important. I think that's a component that I saw very often this summer. So I look up to her. She's still alive today as far as I know, but yeah.
Wow, that is just, I have no words. Thank you for sharing. I have no words. With the next, before we head to the next round, I want to give the panelists a chance to respond to what they've heard from the other panelists. So for the next moment, from the names you've heard that who our panelists would like to have dinner with, just tell us your thoughts and feelings about what you've just heard. And this is a free for all.
I'll start. I more so than the names, I just love the diversity. I love the intentionality and the energy and emotion and the thought that everybody put into it. Each one of the names that were mentioned, both the younger folks and the more seasoned among us. And I like the diversity of names, some familiar, some not as familiar. It just speaks to a seriousness that's reflected on this panel by young and old. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I was gonna say it was because... Go ahead, Stella.
That was Naomi.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Naomi.
I would say Malcolm X because I like people who will tell their stories and explore. I also like people who like to go on journeys and keep pushing themselves because that's what motivates me.
Pastor Miller?
I was just gonna say it was inspirational, and to hear the breadth and depth that came from all these different people, it just shows the amazing gift of humanity that we are walking among and have been a part of.
I really liked people's answers for just like COVID reasons, you know. I feel like if we weren't in COVID, some people, you know, might have different answers. You might not be taking that into consideration, you know, like, oh, I see my family every day. I don't need to have dinner with them. Or, you know, I see my dad every day. I don't need to have dinner with them. But now with COVID, it's like, oh, I you know, I want to see my family member. I don't care about this celebrity or, you know, whoever. I want to see my loved ones. So I thought that was really interesting.
The thing that I like is we're more unified than we know. We think more good alike than we do bad apart. If we were to just think good all the time, we'd be in sync more often and we'd have a lot more beautiful things happening in the world. But we, like Peter, tend to look back behind us when Jesus told us to look forward, but we look back behind us. And if we could just stay forward looking, it's so cool on here. I don't know if the song, the people, or just the unification that I hear is what's doing it for me. We unified. We are.
Well said and well put. It's not much more I can say to that. We're going to go and switch gears now. That conversation leads us to our next round, and I'm going to hand it over to the lovely Jane Audet.
Thank you, Miss Janet. You are awesome. I don't know, that's a tough act to follow, y'all, but I'm going to do my best. Thank you so much. So we're going to kind of dig in a little bit here and get into some rounds that are kind of give us really a chance to speak our truth and hear each other's truth. So maybe a little more serious. The next 3 rounds are going to be a chance to explore some of the Black Lives Matter at School principles. And to respond to some prompts based on those principles so that we can explore those a little bit. I think we'll start, if Pancho's ready, we'll start with the Jamboard. The first prompt that we're going to respond to is the following. Who are you aware of? And this is related to the Black Lives Matter at School principle collective value. Who are you aware of in your family, neighborhood, city, country, or the world whose safety and happiness is threatened due to forces beyond their control? What do you need people to know about you in order to make you feel that you and your culture is appreciated and respected? And I think I'm going to repeat the second part of that. What do you need people to know about you in order to make you feel that you and your culture is appreciated and respected? Pancho, you want to let us know what we got coming up on our community Jamboard?
Absolutely. So we have marry my cousin. We have all the African-American males I know. My students' safety and happiness is threatened every day. And then one person answering to the second piece stated, people need to see me as an equal.
Okay, and I think we'll come back, give people a little chance, because this is really one that requires a little time to kind of ponder. So I think we'll go to our panelists. And this time I'm going to switch it up and start with our youth and young people first. So I'm wondering, Stella, are you up for taking a stab at this one?
Sure, I could go. So I would say the people right now that I believe are in harm's way, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, I would say Black Americans, Black people in general. Just recently, I saw on Twitter the 9-year-old girl who got, I believe she got pepper sprayed while she was in handcuffs, and then literally the next day, nothing else about it, you know? And it's really traumatizing. it's just kind of like the racial battle fatigue that we're constantly facing of, it's like one hit after another. And I just feel like there's never any time to process it. And then it's on to the next tragedy, or it's on to the next, you know, blow. And so then I also think of my students who are, it's predominantly Black students that I work with, just, you know, them having to deal with what's happening in the world, but then also, you know, COVID and being virtual, having to work virtually. And it's been really tough for them. So then you know, you get into mental health issues, and it's just, it's so many things. And, you know, as an adult, I feel like I know how to handle it better than my students do. You know, I'm kind of just pushing along, and I'm like, this is what we're dealing with right now. But they're, you know, they're at their limit right now with it. And it's hard for me to be like, just, you know, just fill out those scholarships, just do the FAFSA, just do what you need, you know, worry about it later, do what you need to do. So just kind of the collective grief, I would say, and the collective hardships that Black people are facing right now. And then having to kind of deal with, you know, yes, we have a new president, but that doesn't mean things are great now and everything's fine. And then kind of thinking back to, you know, the summer with the Black Lives Matter protests. And, you know, most of us know that really wasn't doing much. We wanted it to, but, you know, people throw up their Black Lives Matter signs and then they call it a day. So I just feel like it's Black people, it's Black people that are just really going through it. Something to answer the second question, something that, what was it?
It's, what do you need people to know in order for you to feel that you and your culture are appreciated?
I guess I don't know if I need them to know this, because I feel like people know, they just ignore it. But I wish they would see, you know, our humanity. When I say all our humanity, I'm speaking of Black people's humanity. I feel like that's always just a piece that's missing, is people not seeing us as human or not recognizing us as human. We're oftentimes othered. And I just think if people would see us as human, would see us as the same as them, would see us, you know, we have children, we have families, and they're important to us. And I feel like that's just such a key piece that's missing, and people can't fathom it. You know, it's like, that's where I think there's a huge disconnect, is not seeing our humanity, not seeing our culture, not seeing who we are, or, you know, refusing to see it. Because again, I don't think they don't see it. I think they just are refusing to acknowledge it. So just, yeah, but I don't know. I really can't say that that I need something from people, you know, like whatever. Yeah, sorry that was kind of all over the place. I really couldn't think of a good answer for that, but that's what I had. That's what I came up with.
Okay. Thank you, Stella. I'm speechless at how you were able to frame the fact that collective value can't stand unless we also look at collective harm, right? And collective hurt. So that was wonderful. Thank you. Naomi. Well, why don't we come back to Naomi? Tatiana, would you like to talk to us?
Yeah, you know, when, you know, you said this question, the first thing I thought about, and the first thing I always try and think about when I come to spaces, is what the privilege that I hold. You know, being a cis woman, being light skinned, you know, being physically able-bodied, I have all these privileges that I'm allowed to exist in. And so when I think about who's unprotected and who's unsafe, I think about dark-skinned women, I think about Black trans women. And you know, when we talk about our culture, it's Black women, it's the Black LGBTQ plus community that's really been, you know, the blueprint of our culture. When we think about our music that's been created and all these things, you know, and we don't focus on these folks that are most impacted by, you know, violence and policy and all these things into spaces. So when we talk about this, I always turn to them and wanting to uplift voices of, you know, most impacted by harmful actions. And So I don't want to talk too much.
Yeah, thank you, Tatiana, for kind of raising the awareness of some of those intersections of identity that put people out there at greater risk. You always inspire me with your words from the first time I heard you speak. So I appreciate that. Naomi, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Can I get another minute to?
Oh, sure, absolutely. I'm gonna go to some of the elders and then we'll come back to you. Okay. Representative Myers.
Some very good answers thus far, I will say. The two people that immediately come front of mind for me when it comes to thinking about people that may be unsafe, I have two nephews. One is a 9-year-old, the other is a 7-year-old. And understanding that they go to school every day and have been subjected to, the oldest one at least, has been subjected to their times when their academic light has been tried to be diminished. So we tell them they're brilliant every day. They believe that. The 9-year-old has a shirt that says, "I'm a genius." Yes, he was standing in front of his class like, "See, it says I'm a genius. I am. You guys need to pay attention." So that's his personality. And understanding that smart is good and all of that. So I see that, but I also understand that at a certain point in his life, that will turn off and he then becomes a threat to somebody that sees that. So that's the part that that makes me feel, just a little bit of angst about as they grow older, how they will be, how that, confidence in oneself, especially as he grows into being a Black man, he and his brother, how that will be, received by the outside world. Of course, we love you and we shelter, you to a point and say, yes, you can do anything. And that's true. But when you get to a point, somebody's going to look at them and say, I need to knock you down a peg or two. And I think that happens with all Black people, Black children, especially. It has happened to me. And to go back to one of the things that Tatiana talked about, she talked about Black women kind of holding down spaces and being the community that we need for each other. That is absolutely true. When I think about what I need, for my community, I think about that as not only as a politician, I think about that as also an educator and someone that just operates within the scope of humanity. When I think about that, I think to policy people and money people, because that's who we deal with a lot to fund policies that we need. I look at the fact that, poverty is sometimes demonized. And when you say Milwaukee, to certain people, that automatically assumes poor. And I work with people every day who assume that Milwaukee is like, I don't know, some war-torn country or something. And they act like everybody has bullets flying back and forth and, people don't have heat and water and like we just live crazy. And I'm like, well, where do you think I live? Like, and then they use that as a code for Black. And that's how they treat our children. I've seen it with my own 4 eyes, that you will sit in a classroom as a teacher and give kids that look just like me a worksheet and several worksheets to do every day instead of actually educating them. And that is what makes me upset, because I want you to give a kid the same, the same ones you teach in River Hills need the same work that they get at Rufus King, needs the same work that they get at North Division, needs the same work that they get at Bayview. Don't cut my kids short. I don't care where they go. Break it down to a point. These kids are not stupid. So, and that's what makes me, upset when I see people, and some of them are my colleagues, which I call out on a daily basis and say, no, you can do better than that. Teach these children how you would teach your own children. And poverty, whether that be the case or not, is not the only interpretation or presentation of being Black. And poverty does not equal mediocrity. So I think a lot of people put those two things side by side. They think there's only one iteration or presentation of being Black, and that's not it. We all have, we fight the same struggles. whether you live on Lake Drive and you Black, or you live on 3rd and Ring and you Black. When you get stopped by the police, what do they see first?
Thank you, Representative Myers. I appreciate you sort of framing how those larger systemic issues and policy issues really affect collective value. And so eloquently, I really appreciate that. I'm going to drop back. I see Naomi's with us here, and I'm going to drop back and see if she feels ready to share her point of view.
I agree with Ms. Myers because we have just because they mark certain schools as bad schools, if you get what I'm saying. And my school is one of those schools, which is not. I feel like if people step foot in that building to see what we learn, how we learn, the help we get, the tutoring, the extra tutoring, the extra teachers to help, the after school programs have, then they can't really, but due to some schools that we go to, a lot of our Black males and females being harmed because of that. We've lost so many students over the last year, and it really impacted our school and us just because of our skin and the areas of 53206, 53220, and more areas. So, yeah.
Thank you, Naomi, for bringing that down to the ground, down to reality where you're living it. And I appreciate you and your words. Thank you. Let's see if Mr. Ellis has some words for us.
I do have some words, some brief ones as well. I thought about the question, and the population I work with is young Black males, basically ages 12 to 17 and up in age, and trying to teach them how to be safe in the community. So I'm most concerned about their safety, especially with the relationship between the cops, between police officers and young Black men, or Black men, period. We're still trying to heal that and trying to work on healing that. And we still have a long way to go because things are still happening. As I heard someone else say something earlier about the 9-year-old young lady or something like that. I am concerned that unless we can find some drastic measures, we're going to continue to have the bloodshed that we have in the street, especially as long as people don't have the resources in their houses to make them want to stay home and be in the house and not in the streets. But it's the young Black male, the relationship between them and the police that I am most concerned about.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Dr. Arrington.
Thank you, Jane. So I appreciate everybody's comments. You know, I was sitting here thinking as I was listening, and I thought about one of my favorite writers, Ta-Nehisi Coates, and his book, Between the World and Me. And this book, from my understanding, written to his son, and helping him to understand the world that he lives in and what are some of the factors and issues that he may be faced with. I think about my son who just turned 13. And so I'm concerned. I think about the words of W.E.B. Du Bois, who talks about in The Soul of Black Folks, he talks about this two-ness that African Americans have to grapple with, and how our skin color is like a veil. And unfortunately, this veil, quote unquote, causes individuals who don't hail from our same community in most cases to not be able to see beyond that veil, to see who we really are, to see the beauty, the gifts that descendants of Africans and Africans have contributed to this nation for generations. And so one of the things that I am concerned with is how I prepare and equip him in particular to be able to navigate this space. One of the things that I appreciate about Ta-Nehisi is that he not only addresses the matters of inequity, systemic oppression, et cetera, based on race, but from the standpoint of dominant culture, from the standpoint of Caucasians, European Americans oppressing African Americans. But he also talks about that if it's not coming from that side, our young men have to also deal with it within their own community. And so the Black body is always under siege. So he may get along with all of his, Caucasian peers, but then he may be, to Representative Myers' point, he may be viewed as uppity, and distant from a group of those who look like him. I faced some of those things. I faced some of that jealousy growing up. And as a father, as a parent, that's a big concern of mine as we move forward, because things are so tense. And the reality is everybody doesn't get it. What Stella talked about, that sense of collective awareness, and what she so beautifully elocuted there. So many in my community don't understand that yet. And so rather than, see an enterprising and rising individual as somebody to connect to link arms with, and to collaborate with, it's seen, they're seen as someone who's in the way. You're somehow diminishing my life, or I don't value your life. Which brings me to my next point, what I want people to know about me. It's a couple of things. First of all, I would say that I'm an image bearer of the Most High God. And the reason I say that, from my biblical understanding and theologically, the term is imago Dei, which references that all humanity is made in the image of God. And that's something that people need to know. That means I'm worthy. I'm worthy of dignity. I draw upon one of our local scholars, Dr. Monique Liston. When I was previously with MPS, we worked with her at my former school for years. And I hear her talking about individuals being worthy. And so from my standpoint, my worth stems from the fact that I am the product of the divine. And so therefore, you don't have the right to disrespect me. But the beautiful part about that is I'm looking at someone who also is divine. I'm looking at someone who also bears that image. So you also are worthy, right? None of us have to have our light diminished because of someone else. And lastly, what I want people to know about me is that it's okay to let me be different. I may, sometimes Blackness is categorized as this monolith. We don't all think alike. We don't all agree on the same things. Black people do ski. Black people do fencing, right? I'm being a little bit facetious here, but my point is, I grew up in an era where we said Black people didn't do that. Black people don't go to this part of town, or they don't go to this school. And so let me have the room to be me, because if I can be who I'm created to be, then that's going to be a benefit to everybody else around me. If my light is somehow diminished, or if I'm denied my worth and dignity to show up the way I'm supposed to show up, it's going to be a detriment to myself as well as anybody else that's in my sphere.
Made in the likeness and image of God. Thank you. You preached, Dr. Arrington. You preached. So now let's hear from the pastors. See what they can do. I can tease them because I love them and they know it. Pastor Marilyn, what you got?
All right, I'm not gonna preach. I would just, there's a whole big old circle of people whose safety and happiness I think is threatened. And that wheel of oppression has all of us on there at different points and times in our lives. So I'm concerned for all living humans as well as living beings. The earth is in trouble. The land is weeping. So all of that for me is a part of what I'm concerned about. And when I think about what, not so much what people need to know about me, but people need to know the fullness and truth about our history, our herstories, all of who we are and what we are. And it needs to be respected and embraced and shared widely. So if that could happen, I think a lot of things could be shifted in how people look at them. So I'll leave it right there.
Thank you, Pastor. Reverend Lanier.
Yes. So I have a son, he's 26 and he has special needs. And as a result of all the Black death at the hands of police, I am removed a basic, simple thing from my journey. If I go to a store and I want to run inside and leave my son who has some special needs, some delays in the car, I can't do that. I went one day, and certainly the question I thought about a whole bunch of people, but I just honed in on my son. And I went one day to the store a couple of years ago, went inside, started to get some stuff, and I had a panic attack because I realized, wait a minute, I've left my son, my Black boy, in the car. He might respond in a way, somebody might call, he's an adult, so he's just listening to music, waiting all day. I don't want to go in the store, I want to listen to music. Okay, good. But at any point in time, a squad car could come past, tap on the window, and he might react in a way that, they react to, and my son could end up dead. And so I ran back out into the car and got him. But I think about that every time I pull up to, any place and he wants to hang out in the car. So I don't let him do that. Real basic, real simple. He's 26, but it is something that I think about with him. My wife just got a sign recently, and he's very high functioning, that I saw. I want to run downstairs and get it, but I won't do that. But it basically says that we have a child in this house that has special needs, and he may respond differently. You may tell him to, slow down. He may accelerate. He may get, he may speak loudly. He may not respond the way that you want him to. And that's all about a concern for a police officer who might, do what has happened to others. I think about, the brothers that got shot in the car, Philando Castillo, the brother that got shot laying down in the middle of the street with his hands up trying to help somebody's special needs. And so there's not much we can do about that in terms of control. So that's who I think about. And then the second question, I think I'm kind of like Stella. Second part of the question is, what do you need people to know about you in order to make you feel that you and or your culture is appreciated and respected? And I wrote that I strive to command or demand respect along my life's journey, and I'm not concerned about, I'd like people to appreciate my culture, I really would, but if they don't, that's on them. And so I see somebody put the beloved community in there. That'd be great for them to aspire to, and we lift it up. But I don't vest a lot of concern whether or not somebody has an appreciation for my culture, although I would like it. That's it.
Thank you, Reverend Lanier. Lauren, can we hear from you?
Yeah, to answer this question, who am I aware of in my family, neighborhood, city, country, or world that is impacted due to forces beyond their control? I thought right away of oppressed nationalities impacted by environmental injustice or environmental racism. I think often of like the youth climate movement and how that's brought a lot of leeway towards better practices and better legislation that'll lead us towards maybe like a greener world. But I also think of communities that are still being impacted by the effects of environmental racism. I'm talking about chronic lead poisoning in children in lower income Black and Brown communities. I think of the oil pipelines running through Indigenous land. I think of the impacts of ground level ozone on lower income communities because of interstates and highways blowing through these communities without any like thought as to the long-term impacts that this would have. So I think a lot about those people in those communities and how we're still facing some of those effects today, and how some of the public health aspects of it are often dumped into like, oh, this is just a healthcare disparity without any respect to how these conditions came about or how these people are affected by it. So I think a lot about people impacted by environmental racism. And I think that what we need to make sure that people, so we need to continue this work because it's important, especially in the era of climate change. I think that we need environmental justice. Environmental justice is just counteracting these horrible actions that have been done, acknowledging the actions that have been done, and then having these communities given the resources that they need to thrive and be healthy once again.
Thank you, Lauren. I am really grateful to you and Pastor Marilyn for raising the issue of environmental justice and that being racial justice, and that, you know, our earth is literally crying out for us to free it from this. And those who are most impacted by what we've done to our earth, right? I'm going to ask Pancho to go to our community jam board here in a second, but before that, I want to say something as a white woman. I'm struck by the fact that I'm here, the white woman in this group, and I feel like I want to speak to the fact that I feel very humbled to be facilitating this conversation. And I literally, as the white woman, I don't have anything to say. I am just happy to be here. I hope that other white folks that are tuning in tonight and listening to this are listening and learning and reflecting and soaking up not only the collective brilliance, but the recognition of the collective harm, but that collective value that you all are bringing tonight. And I just want to thank you, and thank you for letting me be here and be part of this experience. So Pancho, do we have some more things on the community jam board to share?
Absolutely. So thank you to everybody for sharing your honesty, and thank you for everybody who has answered on the jam board. So some of the extra answers that popped up, the statement that justice isn't a trend, it's a habit. We have people concerned about 53206. We have people who are concerned about their students and the safety and their happiness that is threatened every single day. The children I work with, especially the boys, something that they want people to know, to be able to just be them. Students with disabilities, something that they would want people to do if people didn't judge based on the color of skin. People want their voice to be heard and a seat at the table. That's extremely important. I think oftentimes we don't think about that, right? We also have Black people, immigrants stuck at our border, and then the LGBTQ plus community, people who are LGBTQ plus. People need to see me as an equal. I think we might have already shared that. Sexual violence is a human rights justice concern. And then let me try to make this one just a little bit bigger so we can read it. I need people to see that I am my culture. It is what makes me, me. Appreciate it, celebrate it, love it, don't mock it or appropriate it. Extremely, extremely valuable point.
Yes, that's It's a great way to finish up the community Jamboard comments. I love the Jamboard. It's been great to be able to hear the voices of those who are not panelists tonight. We have a few minutes left, and I'd like it to turn it back over to the panelists for a free-for-all to reflect on both what the community Jamboard folks brought to us, but also what you heard from each other, to wrap up this conversation about collective value before we end tonight.
Well, I can start. I just want to say thank you. I'm so thankful to be in this space. It's always such a privilege to be in spaces with my elders. And I think a lot of young people in movement work, we really look up to our elders and our ancestors and hope that we're continuing, the work that you all have laid out, especially when you think about the radical Black tradition that's in our history and ingrained in our culture. Like, I hope that I continue to do good work, and I'm so thankful for the elders and mentors that held me accountable and helped me in my movement. So I'll say all that. Thank you all so much.
Well, I'm going to go just opposite way of Tatiana. I am honored to sit among the leaders who are breaking forth through the darkness. You all are amazing. I am so grateful to hear you speak and to learn from you. And I feel very blessed anytime I get to sit at the feet of the young people to listen and learn from you. So I want to thank you tonight for your brilliance.
I'll say, again, to echo Pastor Marilyn, that even though you put me in kind of the older category, I don't feel that way. Me and Dr. Arrington, we about the same, about almost same age, so we shouldn't be with with people that we, with the older group, we kind of in the middle. I'll say the middle people. But one of the things that I will say is that, this is a responsibility that we all have, to call it out, call it as we see it, to continue to educate ourselves. And it's incumbent upon us to require that others educate themselves as well. It's not our job to do it for them all the time, and especially not do it for free. So let me say that as well too. A lot of times people want experts in certain fields, and can you do this for me? Can you do it for me? And you get all this knowledge, but people don't want to go through the great length to do what they need to do to secure that. So that's the first thing. The other part of that is that, revolution does not happen overnight. We've been fighting the same battle since 1619, since the first one of us stepped foot. The civil rights movement didn't start with a bus, and it didn't die with a king. It started, with us. We have to have variations of the civil rights movement, the human rights movement, because, and that's why I like the term Black Lives Matter. I like the organization Black Lives Matter, is because they talk about that in their mission statement when they talk about affirming all Black life. No matter how you present that Black life, that's what matters. Because at the end of the day, I think Dr. Arrington talked about the fact that we are not a monolith. We have various experiences that we come to the table with. So we cannot just solely focus on one aspect of being Black. I think we have to do a whole lot of work. There's stuff that Black people do. We do ski, we ice skate, whatever it is. So those things really do happen. It's not, acting white when you are intelligent. So all of that comes to up for me. It's been a pleasure to hear from those that are younger. And hopefully I'll cross my fingers that you will be in a classroom soon, teaching children somewhere, because you are most definitely needed in this space. We are lacking people who will teach the truth, pure and unadulterated, because our children can tolerate it and handle it. Trust me, they want it. They yearn for it every day. for us to do that. So when we think about that as our mantle, think about that when you get ready to make decisions for yourself.
Anyone else have some final words of wisdom for us this evening?
I'll drop some nuggets. Well, I hope they're nuggets. I have been using Amanda Gorman's inauguration poem a lot in recent public speaking opportunities. And one of the easy things to say is, well, hey, you know, we have an Amanda Gorman in our institutions or two. But the reality is we've got tens and hundreds and thousands of Amanda Gormans and Mike Gormans, if you will, in our institutions. And our institutions have to improve. Our institutions must rise to a different level to be of service to those whom we serve. And because they're not, because we are in a city and a state that has challenges culturally, white supremacist embedded culture, bureaucracies that operate from a disposition of mediocrity, it's tough to be great. But there is greatness embedded inside each and every one of our students. All the educators know that. And so when I look at her, I'm pleased, but also frustrated. And so I would say for all of us, and particularly for the younger ones of us, just continue to pursue greatness. Don't let anybody tell you no. Don't let anybody tell you what cannot happen. Work collaboratively. You all know this already because I'm listening to your voices. But there will be people, places, and things that tell you that you cannot, and they just will be wrong, flat out wrong. So we'll go as big and bold and bad as you can and roll with those who roll with you. If you got to leave some folks behind, leave them behind, but you're dynamic. Do you and do it well. And make a difference. And that's those are my nuggets. So take care.
I agree. And I just want to thank you guys for letting me speak my version of the truth.
Amen.
And we are so glad you did, Naomi. Thank you. All right. I think Angela Harris is going to bring it in for the home run here.
All right, you all. This was another dynamic night. We learned so much. I love Intergenerational Night, an opportunity to bring various generations together, young folks, elders, and us in between folks, like Rep Myers mentioned, to bring us all together in dialogue. I want to point out that there is a Padlet in the chat box. Click that link and let us all know how you felt about tonight. I want to take this opportunity to thank our moderators and the planners of this event tonight, Jane, Audet, and Janet Wheeler. I want to thank all of our panelists, Stella Nathan, Representative Lakeisha Myers, Tatiana Washington, Lauren Cross, Andre Lee Ellis, Pastor Marilyn, Pastor Dr. Arrington, Naomi Elam, Pastor Lanier. Thank you all so much. Poncho, thank you so much for your assistance with the jam boards. I really loved that element tonight. I want to thank all of our community sponsors, Leaders Igniting Transformation, Ubuntu, African American Roundtable, Community Schools, MICAH, Black Educators Caucus, Milwaukee Teachers Education Association, Milwaukee Public Schools, Showing Up for Racial Justice. I think that's everybody. A special thanks to Milwaukee Public Schools and our superintendent, Keith Posley, for supporting Black Lives Matter Week of Action in our schools the last 3 years in a row. Thank you so much to all of our attendees tonight. And I just want to close us out with a quote, like I've done the last 3 nights. And beloved community is formed not by the eradication of difference, but by its affirmation, by each of us claiming the identities and cultural legacies that shape who we are and how we live in the world. Bell Hood. bell hooks. And what you all just witnessed tonight was beloved community in action. Please join us tomorrow for day 5 of Black Lives Matter Week of Action in our schools, the Black Lives Matter at School book launch. Thank you all so much again for coming, and we hope to see you all tomorrow night. Thank you, everybody. We're probably going to get booted off, you guys, but real quick, it was really great. I loved it. It was so awesome. Very nice work.
Amazing.
Thank you.
So
Amazing.
good. So good. Like,
Amazing. Amazing.
And we still had prompts left, man. We could have been talking all night.
listen, we could have went till 8 o'clock.
And it seemed like the Jamboard worked okay, Pancho? Didn't freeze
Yeah,
out?
I think making sure that people were coming in and out made it perfect. So yeah, I think, and like describing it every time made it even better. So that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, people did a really good job of cycling in and out. So yeah, it was really good, you all. I will see everybody tomorrow. Last day. I'm almost there. All right, you all have a good one. Have a good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.